Ready, set, YouTube. Okay. If you clicked on this video, you are probably considering moving to Korea to be an English teacher. And in this video, I hope to share with you a good recommendation for how to save money. So I have been here for 6 months and I have saved $500.
Okay, so I just realized this mistake. I definitely saved $5,000, not 500. I promise.
While working at a hagwon. So I don't know, maybe somewhere out there in the universe, someone will find this helpful. So let's do it. There are a couple of disclaimers that I'm going to put on this video just outright. First of all, obviously the past 6 months, the world has been a completely different place. I've been able to save probably more than I would have if I was here a year ago because I haven't traveled anywhere. I don't go to bars and clubs. Like, I barely take taxis. I've lived in a relatively small bubble for these 6 months because of the effects of the pandemic. So that's just a little grain of salt to be taken with this, that obviously if I was living a full experience here in Korea, then I probably wouldn't have saved as much, or my budget would look a bit different. Also, I work at a hagwon, or an academy, which is a private education center, so I make a little bit more money than someone who would work for the government or work through the EPIC program. So if you are interested in seeing how you can save money with EPIC and what that kind of a budget looks like, I would highly recommend Korean Ollie. He has a great video where he breaks down like 3 or 4 different budgets that he's tried over the years that he's been here, and he has saved a ridiculous amount of money. So I would definitely recommend checking out his videos. And then the last thing that I'm going to say before we get started is that budgets are very personal things. Obviously, my budget is a reflection of things that I deem to be important enough or worthy of my money. Our budgets are not going to look the same. This is just sort of a snapshot about what one person spends in a month here. And I hope that it helps inform you when you build your budget and what sort of things are possible or what spending is reasonable in another part of the world. I have my notes here so I don't mess up any numbers. I want this to be a super accurate representation of my budget. So it's my first year teaching EFL here in Korea, and I teach at a hagwon, and a reasonable sort of range of salary that you can expect to make if you are like me is about 2.3 million to 2.5 million won per month. I am very fortunate. I got an awesome job in a really good place that pays me on the upper end of that scale, but that's not going to be the case for everyone. If you are in a different city or you work at one of the larger corporations, that number might go up or down, but that's sort of a good range for approximating what you would make if it's your first year teaching EFL in Korea and you are teaching at a hagwon. After tax, my salary drops a little bit, obviously. What hits my bank account is about 2.3 million. And out of that, there are some sort of concrete numbers that I pay every single month. The first category is rather broad. I just called it bills because it covers my utilities essentially. So like my heat, my electricity, my gas. I get separate bills for those things, but I also don't pay them myself. So I gather those bills every month, bring them to my hagwon, they calculate it, they pay it, and then I pay the school. So an assumption of that number, it changes. Obviously, how much water, heat, whatever I use every month changes, but it's about roughly 175,000 won or $175 American Canadian. About $175. So it's a little bit more than what I paid at home, if I'm being honest, and it is a little bit more expensive because of the area I live in. I live in a nice area in a relatively expensive office town, so they charge a little bit more here for utilities. Next up is my cell phone. I came to Korea owning my phone. It was already unlocked. I had paid for it in full, so the only thing I pay for here is data, and I pay about $60,000 a month. I would highly recommend buying out your phone before you come here if you haven't already. It's a lot more complicated if you don't have a device, you don't own a device. But that's how much I pay just for data, and I think I'm on a 2-year contract. There's many other ways you can go about it. Obviously, if you only plan on staying for 1 year or you're not sure how long you're going to be here for, you can just buy a top-up data SIM that you can just top up. Some people do that even though they've been here for like 5 years. I have a friend who does that, but I just prefer to be on a plan. I don't have to think about it. It takes it out of my bank account every month, and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's about $60,000 a month. And then the last number that I'm sure you're expecting to hear is my rent. But if you have been researching Korea and teaching EFL here for a while, then you probably already know that I do not pay rent. So many contracts here for hagwons, and everyone who works at Epic doesn't pay for their apartment. Oftentimes all the apartments are in the same building, so you live with all your coworkers, and it's all paid for by the school. There are occasions where you can negotiate to get a rent stipend if you want. That's not an option at the school that I teach at. I also think that that's super complicated. Obviously, if you've been here for some time, you really like the apartment that you live in, or you want to try living more independently, then that makes sense. But in your first year here, understanding key money and finding an apartment, finding a good realtor while you're also just adjusting to your first year in Korea may not be the easiest way to do it. It might be right for you. It wasn't right for me, so I'm happy paying $0 rent and living in my kick-ass apartment. So after all of those monthly bills have been paid, I am left with 2,065,000 won, which is approximately $2,065. I came to Korea with the goal of saving a lot of money. I knew it was very possible, so it was definitely a part of what I wanted to do here, along with doing other fun, awesome, cool things. Savings is awesome and cool too. I really want to get my master's degree, so saving for school is a huge objective for me, and school is very expensive, especially if you want to be an international student like I do. So I had a goal of saving $12,000 a year or $1,000 a month. Obviously you must be thinking, well, wait, she said she saved $5,000 in 6 months, so she's behind. And technically, yes, I am, but obviously 2020 threw everyone for a loop, so I am still very proud for what I have been able to accomplish, even if there were some expenses that I wasn't expecting, which took me off route. I'm still super happy with $5,000 in 6 months, and I do think that I can still reach that $12,000 in 1 year if I work really hard. And also, I mean, like birthdays and stuff and whatever. Any extra additional money that I am fortunate enough to receive would obviously go directly to my savings goal, and I still really want to hit $12,000 in 1 year. So after I take out the $1,000 Canadian, which is roughly 900,000 won, the budget I have for the month is 1,165,000 won, or roughly $1,165. I'm sure now you're wondering, Kimmy, can you live on only $1,100 a month? And you absolutely can. With that budget of 1,165,000 won a month, I break it into a couple of categories. The first category I have is eating out, which is 300,000 won, or roughly $300. For some people, this is going to be high. For other people, it's going to be low. For me, it's just right, like Goldilocks. But obviously, I'm a single person, and I don't know if you've ever seen kitchens in office towels in Korea, but they are very small. Like, I only have one big burner, one small burner. That's it. I have no oven. There was a microwave when I got here, but I don't like microwaving food, so I just have 2 burners, and that's basically it. It's hard anyways buying groceries as a single person anywhere in the world. Grocery serving sizes are not really meant for single people. They're meant for couples and families. So it's actually more reasonable and cost effective here as a single person to not buy a month's worth of groceries and instead actually eat out or get delivery food. And the nice thing here is that basically everything is eligible for delivery. So just because I'm eating out all the time, restaurants and delivery food, doesn't mean that I'm eating bad food. There's lots of healthy options and some unhealthy options too. But I spend about $300 a month on restaurants. After that, I do still have a category for groceries. This is more like groceries and corner store, if I'm being completely honest. I get a couple of things at the grocery store, like eggs or bottled water, things like that. But I don't spend a ton of money actually at the grocery store. I spend more money at the convenience store if I'm getting like an ice cream or I'm getting a quick snack. I'll usually get it from the from the convenience store, but I just called both of those things groceries, and I spent about $200 or 200,000 won there a month. The next category is cosmetics. So obviously there's tons of K-beauty and K-skincare for me to choose from here. For some people, again, $100 a month might be high, might be low for cosmetics. For me, it's probably a little higher than what I would usually spend at home because I'm still trying to figure out A, what is available here, B, what my skin actually likes, and C, what is like a sustainable expense for me. When I was here early on, I bought some stuff that was super expensive and I didn't realize I would use so quickly. So I'm trying to find the right balance of my cosmetics mix here, which is why I have that $100 until I figure out exactly what I want to stick with and see that through. The next category is coffee, which may be surprising to some people. I don't think it's super common to have coffee as its own line item on a budget. But like I said, budgets are super personal, and for me, coffee is like a definite needs its own line item. Otherwise, I would completely spend everything in my eating out category on coffee. I drink 3 or 4 coffees a day. So I wake up and I get a coffee from the corner store, and then I go to work and I have one of our free coffees, and then on our break, I go out and get a coffee, and then sometimes if I'm working after work on one of my other projects, I get another coffee. So it's anywhere from 3 to 4 coffees a day, which I also know is super unhealthy, but I really can't help it. I need coffee to stay alive. So that's why I have a completely separate line item for it. If I didn't drink coffee, I would be saving so much more money a month. But that's why I have $100 for coffee. And I also often go over budget on that line item. But when I do just take it out of the other food categories, which I'm usually under on anyways. The next category is transport, which is 75,000 won or $75. I have never spent this much on transport any of the months that I've been here. But like I said, a lot of this budget has been affected by COVID, so I think it's reasonable to have $75 put aside, especially if later I plan on doing things like going to the city and going, club hopping and having to come home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna have to take a cab. The subway doesn't run. So cab and subway are both under transport, and I think 75 is a nice little clean cap that will, is reasonable now, will be reasonable later. So $75 there. Then the next line item I have is shopping, which I have $175 or 175,000 won. I know some people just sort of have a category that they call leftover miscellaneous surplus that they do spend on more frivolous things like cosmetics and shopping. But for me, I like to pull those things out specifically because if I just have a miscellaneous surplus category, 100% of it would go to shopping. So I need to be a little bit strict on myself and actually pull out what of that extra money I want to spend on clothes and shoes. So I have $175 for that. Sometimes I'll see something a little bit more expensive that I really want, so I will just not spend for 1 month and then have double the category for the month that follows. And then the last real category I've just called apartment. This is for buying things like laundry detergent and bathroom cleaner and Drano. but also for buying things for my apartment. So I'm still like slowly making this apartment feel more personal, or personalized, I guess I should say. I'm a minimalist anyways, so I don't have a lot of like crap in my apartment, but I am still picking and choosing a couple of things that I want to add, whether it's like little decor things or bigger furniture pieces. I'm going to start studying for my GMAT soon, so I am actually planning on getting a desk to add to my apartment. It's something I don't have, so I've been rolling this budget over every month, so I can save up for that desk that I actually want to get, which I will be getting next month. And then the last category is a miscellaneous category. So this is just what I have left over that I didn't see any value in adding to the other categories because they were already full enough. I mean, I guess I could add it to coffee, but I don't want to. I'm trying to be strict with myself. So my sort of leftover money every month is about 165,000 won, or $165. It's sort of like a grace in case I do go over in any of those other categories, and if I don't, then I just roll it over to the next month, and I usually send it in addition to the $1,000 Canadian. So sometimes I send $1,000, sometimes I send 1,100, sometimes I send 1,050. It's always $1,000, and then basically whatever I didn't spend the month before. And that's it. That's the end of the page. That is my budget. That is how I saved $5,000 in 6 months working as an EFL teacher at a hagwon in Korea. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and it made sense and it seems realistic for you. If you have any questions, also let me know. If there's something I didn't explain or you want me to go more depth into, just let me know. I would be happy to do that. And if you want to see more from me, if you are enjoying my videos, God, it's so patronizing. If you like this, if you want more of this, please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell so that you know when my next video comes out. Okay.